Welcome to Tubman House. Come on in.
Oh, hi.
That's going to be the time.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not going to
every time.
run into that Monday night.
Hi. What do you got?
We're an 18-month transitional living community, and it's voluntary. So residents find us or are referred by other agencies locally, and they apply by a phone call, initial interview and phone call, where we spend an incredible amount of time talking and referring and kind of getting their story.
Can't ask people to be vulnerable and pursue change 5 hours a day and then send them back into a world where the things that being vulnerable is extremely dangerous. It seemed wrong. I really wasn't preparing my students for the world they were going to live in by asking them to become vulnerable and dream and hope. If really, when they went out into the world, that was going to be a dangerous activity and possibly depressing.
The constant, relentless, holistic approach to the support, everything from going to a college class with the resident, to being there for when the baby's born. I mean, all those things are all pieces of how the program works as a community.
I came here because my family had moved away. My family ran out of money and they had to move back to Michigan, and there wasn't any room for me to go with them. So I was kind of scrambling last minute to try and find a place to live. And luckily, I had put myself on the wait list before because I knew things were kind of shaky and they were going to run out of money. So I got in 2 days before we would have been evicted. And just, by like the skin on my teeth, like it was so stressful at times.
Well, I would just like to thank Tubman House for all they're doing and what else they're going to do. And I just thank God that I got into the Tubman House, because if I didn't, then I honestly wouldn't know where I'll be at right now, me or my son.
My mom passed away when I was really young, and after that, I pretty much raised myself. My family was supposed to be there, but they're too busy trying to do what they gotta do. So I had my son at 16, and then from there, everything got a little rough, but I still survived. I ended up getting pregnant again with my youngest one, and from there I became homeless, and I was everywhere, family houses to friends' houses to boyfriend's house to a shelter. And then I got in a shelter and I got myself back in school. I got myself into women empowerment. I graduated from there.
Like, you can try your hardest to work it out on your own, but you need support. You need someone or something to lean on.
I've had to kind of relearn how to live life. Tubman is kind of giving me a different set of wings.
Like, I didn't know anything about Tubman. Like, I was like, Tubman, it sounded, a program is a program. It sounded like, fun, but at the same time, the life I was living, I didn't know if I really wanted to structure it. So then I decided to come. I'm glad I came.
So we already knew we were going to do Tubman. We just did the bike trip as a test drive / stunt, funding stunt. Though the bike trip was basically on our credit cards that are still being paid off. But after that, we were able to write that into grants as part of our history of what we can do, what we can achieve. And that's why I think people gave us a shot.
Right. And so we had media following us along on that trip. And we basically every 50 to 100 miles, we found a town that was on our route. We called every community group in that town, every school, every church, every Lions Club, and said, hey, would you be willing to host this really fabulous group that's going to be coming through? It's a group of kids that are going to be really setting goals, striving for dreams, doing this. And then we ended up securing a spot every 50 to really 80 miles all the way to Pensacola, Florida. That in itself, allowing these folks to host us and welcome us into their town, into their home, and the hospitality and the South in general was just, amazing. Yeah. But moving. I mean, I remember we were in New Orleans and people were just praying for us. And every youth group member had a name of a rider. And that's really how our whole concept of coaching came about too. We do coaching model at Tubman, and that's what we were doing on the bike trip. It was just called guide and rider rather than coach and resident. But it was a similar model actually. It's just coming to
and just realizing that the universe, what happened, I remember New Orleans stands out for all the writers. What happened in New Orleans, and realizing for youth that had felt like the universe had kind of conspired against them to roll into a town of strangers and find out that for once the universe seemed to be like praying and rooting for you and have gotten you there safely was pretty incredible. I think it kind of undid everybody, to be honest. It got everybody across their country. It was hot. Well, the other thing was that you couldn't really quit because you would be stranded in the middle of Texas. So that was one of the other things that made it work was, we weren't going to fly you back. Your only way out was through. Your only way out was your own legs. And so that was part of the power of the trip too. But we tried to take as many of those elements of the trip and bring them to the creation of Tubman House. And so, almost everything, people are always like, what? What? The bike trip, Tubman House? We're like, no, we always knew we wanted to do Tubman House. We did the bike trip because we knew we wanted to do Tubman House. And actually Tubman House is if you could put the bike, what made the bike trip work and what that was about is trying to plant that inside a house. And that means everything, all the healing is in relationship. We don't expect people to take risks without relationship. We know that these are ongoing. These relationships are real. They don't end when you graduate after 18 months. They're real.
Or when you're throwing your bike off the side of the road because you're so mad you don't want to go another mile. I mean, the moments on the bike trip taught us so much about the journey of what Tubman was going to be. I mean, it really. There were so many days where it was like, we're not going to finish this. Both for the guides and the riders, and we all persevered and we all made it.
Yeah, there's a breakdown for sure. Everybody had a breakdown at one point or another, a moment of despair, and the way the community would lift you back up.
As a coach, I've been a coach here for 4 years. It's amazing to just see the journey of the clients when they come through the door their first day and they're just like overwhelmed because there's so many things to know and routines and rules and policies, and then a month later they understand and they wake up, they're used to the rhythms. But it's just amazing to see how even if a person has been here for one day and they decide to leave, in some way we know that we've helped them.
We're currently working on getting my partner in here, and he had to go through a process to get in here because we have had our issues in the past, and he's had his issues with drinking. And so actually Tubman House helped us a lot with that because he actually realized that he was an alcoholic, and they had helped him get into the programs that he needed to get into in order to get into this program. Hopefully he will be getting it soon, but they helped him a lot, and it's also helped us with our relationship and bettered our relationship.
Just because we're young, it doesn't mean we can't make it. People always judge us, oh, they're not going to do this and they're not going to do that. Well, I'm doing what I got to do. So it's hard, but just like if you're 25 having your first baby, it's still going to be hard. Age doesn't really matter. It just makes it harder.
I think Tubman's incredible. I wish a lot of people knew about it. All my family, they're like, kind of jealous, like, oh, I wish I knew about that, in my time of need. I'm like, yeah, well, I have to pray to the Lord. Thanks the Lord, I wasn't the one originally to call and get on the list. It was more my fiance.
Doug and I, we've been together since we were 15. Doug's a really good guy. He has very strong family values. I don't think he knows how strong his family values are because he is very different from a lot of guys, and it's just kind of nice. And I'm so happy that I was able to have him as my partner for my children, because I couldn't see any other kind of person being in the position that he's in with me and our children, because they're just like, they learn so much from him.
And I feel like a better person, from the time I was here till now. I say I grossed a lot. I've gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of education.
Before Tubman House, I was homeless. We were living out of my car, me, my wife, and my daughter, basically just trunk full of clothes, bouncing around house to house, escaping the dangers of being homeless, not being able to afford rent. That stuff that's scary.
I grew up in a household where my mom did a lot of things, but the one thing that I didn't really see my mom do is take care of herself. As a young person, it's huge and really beneficial to see someone who's a role model in your life to take care of themselves and what it looks like and model it.
I was in high school. I fell in love with a boy, and I kept trying to make things work with that boy when I shouldn't have been. We kind of had an abusive thing, went back and forth, and we broke up a lot and got back together a lot. And it was actually during one of the times we were broken up, that I found out I was pregnant. And he told me, get an abortion. I want nothing to do with it. You're going to be a terrible mother. You can't do this on your own. You're not smart. You know, this is a terrible idea. And so far I've been working really hard to prove him wrong with everything. I'm an advocate for education. I'm an early childhood education major, and I'm so passionate about children.
If you had just a couple of words about how much Tubman House means to you.
It means life or death, you know. Without it, I would be working a minimum wage job trying to scrape by. I wouldn't be able to finish my education. I wouldn't be able to get any further in life, and I would be stuck. And it's called Tubman House for a reason. You know, Harriet Tubman led the way, and you know, she really carried a torch for everyone, and you know, showed them the way. And Tubman does it the same way. They show you the way to a better life.
And you know, being at Tubman, we've actually been provided couples counseling, which is awesome because not a lot of young parents have that, and I believe it would save so many people from being a statistic, which I was very close to being a single mother with 2 kids, under 20. I feel like when I was with Doug in a stressful situation as far as being with his mom and, you know, still being a kid myself and having a kid and not really knowing how to communicate my wants and my needs, and it was not the ideal situation, and I definitely was not able to be the best parent that I wanted to be for my son. So I'm really grateful that being here takes so much of the pressure off of all the other areas, so you can focus on being a really good parent.
In society, it always is kind of a thing. People are, oh, you're saints, and it's like, I am no saint. Anybody who spends an afternoon with me will tell you that. And it's actually, I think, if we're going to call people that do this work saints, it basically is an excuse to excuse yourself from reaching out and connecting and building relationship.
Being in Tubman, being in the program is almost like you see the outcome of what the thinkers are thinking. When you're in the backstage doing those things, it's like almost like being in the backstage of Disneyland.
We wanted to just have a wraparound, a real community. We knew it was Tubman. We knew exactly who we wanted to serve. We wanted to serve young parents because we knew there were virtually no resources for them, but also it's an amazing time of a will to transform, you know, because they will do for their child what they don't believe in for themselves. So we were both intrigued by that. Also intrigued with working with children when they're young, and so you can shelter the brain from the impacts of stress hormones and instability. So we knew exactly who we wanted to serve, and we just needed to figure out a way to get people to give 2 teachers a bunch of money to help in the transitional community.
One of the really strong tenets that Bridget and I both came into this work with, from Loaves and Fishes, Bridget from Continuation High School, is not just the cliche term daring to dream, but the idea that, yeah, service jobs need to be filled, but that's not what you have to get stuck doing. Like, you can be passionate about something and pursue it, and you deserve it, you can earn it, you know, all of these pieces. So that's been really interesting to look at, to break it all down and look realistically at what their goals are and what they want to do, and be behind them 100% of the way.
I want to have a good job. A job that I really like, that I want to like wake up and be like, yes, I'm going to work. I don't want to be like, I have to go to work again. Like, I wanted my dream job, but I don't know what that is yet. So I need to figure that out while I'm here.
The opportunities and possibilities are endless. What you can accomplish here. I've already accomplished so much.
I've had to kind of relearn how to live life.
The way I see it, I'll never lose touch with Tubman.